Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. The media and consulting firm linked to fraudulent voter registration forms in Pennsylvania recently has gone dark as of last Saturday. Joining me with more on this story is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, what is this firm and what do we know about it?
Field and Media Corps is actually an Arizona-based company, and from my understanding and research, they're a firm that trains canvassing workers on how to properly fill out voter registration forms or help voters fill it out and to complete the process in a legal way. And so they were working with a canvassing operation called Everybody Votes, which has also been linked to a super PAC called the Voter Registration Project. And so this organization had apparently turned in batches of voter registration ballots to counties in central Pennsylvania and north central Pennsylvania. And this was right ahead of the deadline in order to register. And that some of these registrations have been determined to be fraudulent. Not all of them. Some of them are, or a lot of them are legit, but some of these are fraudulent in the sense that there is correct voter information and there's forged signatures or they're duplicate registrations. The county will be contacting some of the people on this form when they notice that the signatures don't match and ask them about, did you send this in? When did you send this in? And in some cases, it's flat out, no, I never did it. Or yes, that's my name, but that's not my address. Because in some cases, it's not as though these registrations were tied to a specific party, but rather that there were sometimes small changes like an address change. And so that is what tipped election workers that, and so many of them were filled out in the same handwriting. So that was something that was discovered in Lancaster, York, and Monroe counties in the days leading up to the election. So after, this is an ongoing story. So after that, we did some research into Field and Media Corps, and it turns out that, as I said before, they're tied to a super PAC that is reportedly using 501(c)(3) charities in order to boost registrations in order to create more votes for Democrats. So that's a pretty incendiary sounding thing. So there is reports out there from conservative leaning research nonprofits. So clearly they have an agenda to push, but they are pointing to documentation that suggests that there is a concerted effort to boost registration numbers for one party in particular. And that is an interesting finding because it's not corroborated in the data that we have on voter registration in Pennsylvania. The Democrats' registration advantage has dwindled significantly over the last 4 years. They used to have more than 1 million more voters registered in their party. And leading up to Election Day, they had roughly 400,000. So if this campaign was as successful as they say they are, or are alleged to be, in increasing voter registration for the nefarious purpose of boosting votes for Democrats, they're not very successful in Pennsylvania. And so that's the caveat here, is that, these reports seem to bring to light some very interesting information about how Field and Media Corps, and by extension, Everybody Votes, how they're connected in a way that could be questionable given election law that prevents 501(c)(3) charities from participating in these very political activities. So there's kind of the 30,000-foot view of what the dynamics of the situation are. But since Field and Media Corps went dark, we can't, the Center Square hasn't been able to get into contact with them and has had to rely on statements that were made to other media outlets before their website and phone numbers and social media presence before that all started to disappear from the internet. So in that case, the founder of Field and Media Corps has essentially said that they trained these workers on how to fill out these forms or help residents fill out these forms in a legal way, and that they do not, or that he does not endorse fraud, obviously, in any way. So he's really distanced himself from this canvassing operation and what they've done, and seems to kind of place the blame on their workers and not his training.
And as of right now, where is the investigation into this at? Is this organization included in that investigation? What's going on there?
So it seems that, this is still fluid, and obviously the news on it has been a lot quieter since the election this week has unfolded. It's important to note that we're not talking a significant amount of ballots, at least at this point, that were submitted by this canvassing operation. that in any way would have made a difference so far as the results have been. I mean, we're talking one of the batches in Lancaster County was 2,500, and, there was only a percentage of them, something like 25%, less than a third, that were deemed fraudulent in the end. So when you're talking about, yes, this is a big deal. Number one, these registrations didn't necessarily lead to fraudulent votes. So that's important to put out there. But it's not clear how widespread it is at this point and how much farther did this get? Did workers catch it everywhere? Was it a simple mistake? It's unclear at this point where those results are. Investigators in each of the counties is continuing to review. And, there is serious charges for intentional fraud on voter registration. So it involves, felony charges, actually. So there's definitely a long way to go in this investigation. And certainly we will be keeping up with it as it progresses.
Well, Kristen, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.